Hello, and welcome back to the System Design series. Today's episode is one of my favorite ways of learning with QuizTime. We will test our learning about the system design methodology. The quiz will focus specifically on topics like SDLC and software design models. I am very excited to play QuizTime and learn with you as well. Here's how the gameplay will go. You will listen to the question and the prompts. You will have 10 seconds to choose an answer, and then you can compare your answer when the answer is revealed. I will reveal the answer and provide you an explanation. If you got your answer correct, then great job. Keep a tally of your scores. Add 1 to your score for each correct answer. Finally, write your score in the comment box and tell me, what do you think about the System Design series? So are you ready? Ready? Set. Go. Question number 1. What does SDLC stands for? Option A. Software Design Language Concept. Option B. Software Development Local Cycle. Option C. Software Development Lifecycle. Option D. Software Design Lifecycle. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is C. Software Development Lifecycle. If you look at the other choices, none of them kind of make sense. The SDLC has nothing to do with language. SDLC has again nothing to do with the local cycle. And SDLC is about software development lifecycle and not software design lifecycle. If not, no worries. Great job if you guys got it correct. And if you didn't, no worries. We have a lot more to go. So let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is true about SDLC? Option A. We build the dynamic model in the system design phase. Option B. We create the object model in the requirement phase. Option C. We create the functional model in the system design phase. Option D. We translate the object model into code in the system design phase. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is A. We build the dynamic model in the system design phase. The dynamic model is what we build in the system design phase, which involves the creation of sequence diagrams and state diagrams. Option B, we create the object model in the system design phase as well. We create the functional model in the requirement phase and not in the system design phase. The object model translation happens in the implementation phase and not in the system design phase. With that, let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is the correct order of the SDLC phases? Option A. Requirements, system design, analysis, implementation. Option B. Requirement, analysis, system design, implementation. Option C. Analysis, requirement, system design, implementation. And finally, option D. All the above. The order of the phases does not matter. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is B. All the choices A, B, and C had the phases correct. It's just that the order of the phases was not defined correctly, and option B defines the phases correctly. So we have always remember we start with the requirements. From the requirements, we move to analysis. From the analysis, we move to system design. And finally, we move towards implementation, which is based on the design. And option D definitely is not correct because the order of phases does matter and is important. So hope you guys got this answer correct. It was relatively an easy one. So with that, let's move on to the next one. Question number 4. What type of diagram is it? A. Sequence diagram. Option B. Use case diagram. Option C. State diagram. And option D. None of the above. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is B, use case diagram. This, I think, to me was very obvious. If you look at the diagram, it's not a sequence diagram because we don't have the objects and the messages or the arrows that go from one object to the other. It's not a state diagram because we don't see transitions of some state from the initial to the end state. All we see is an actor, and it looks like the actor is kind of performing the use cases, which is a classic example of a use case diagram. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 5. Again, what type of diagram is it? Option A, sequence diagram. Option B, use case diagram. Option C, state diagram. And option D, functional diagram. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is C, state diagram. We just talked about in the previous question, like what state diagram is. And if you look at the diagram, it's very evident that we have some sort of state transition from non-existent to reverse to cancel or redeemed. So it's not a functional diagram. We don't have use cases. Neither it's a use case diagram. Neither it's the sequence diagram. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 6. What kind of relationship exists between user and an artist in this diagram? Option A, composition. Option B, aggregation. Option C, inheritance. And option D, none of the above. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is inheritance. Whenever we define a relationship between two entities as a is-a relationship, that implies inheritance. And in this example, the relationship between the user and artist is very clearly demarked with the is-a notation as well as an arrow pointing from the artist towards the user. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 7. Which system design activity defines whether our system should use an event-driven architecture? Option A, system decomposition. Option B, identify concurrency. Option C, software control. Option D, boundary conditions. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is software control, option C. System decomposition is all about breaking system into smaller subsystems. Identify concurrency, option B. That does not imply the usage of event-driven architecture. And software control is the activity which allows us to figure out what kind of flow control that we want to achieve within a system. An event-driven example architecture is one of the examples of a flow control, how messages flow between each system. Moving on to the next one. Question number 8. Which system design activity deals with ACLs? Option A, identify concurrency. Option B, global resource handling. Option C, persistent data mapping. And option D, identify design goals. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is B, global resource handling. With the same argument, the concurrency has nothing to do with ACL. Persistent data mapping was more about choosing the right database for our subsystems. Identification of goals is more about the non-functional requirements. However, the global resource handling is an activity where we go back and figure out how do we make sure our system is secure, and ACLs is definitely one of the ways of securing access in an authorized way. I hope you got the answer for this one correctly. This was kind of very evident because of the usage of the word ACL and its association with global resource handling. With that said, let's move on to the next question. Question number 9. Which model does system decomposition activity influence? Object model, functional model, dynamic model, both dynamic and object model. Your time starts now. And the correct answer is function model. I think as we saw in the previous questions as well, where we talked about functional model is all about defining the use cases, and use cases help us figure out the system decomposition. The other models, the object model and the dynamic model, come a little bit later in the life cycle. So the correct answer in this case is option B, function model. Let's move on to the last question that we have for this quiz time, which is question number 10. Which activity does the dynamic model influence? Option A, persistent data mapping. Option B, identification of the design goals. Option C, identification of concurrency. And option D, system decomposition. Your time starts now. Option C is the correct answer, identification of concurrency. The dynamic model talks about the internal state of system, and we use the sequence diagram to represent it. So we are in a position to identify concurrency issues. None of the other system design activities, persistent data mapping, identifying design goals, and system decomposition help us achieve that. So with that said, we are at the end of our quiz. If you got all your answers correct, great job. If you got any of the questions wrong, no worry. You can always go back and watch the videos in the series to learn more about the topic in detail. Please make sure to post your score in the comment box below and give me your feedback about the quiz time. I would love to hear about that. I will see you in the next episode. Till then, keep learning.